a little demonstration of this web-enabled software that we've developed at Schwegman, and that we affectionately refer to as ClaimBot. But what you'll come to realize is that it's basically a tool that allows us to plot and organize large amounts of intellectual property. And so if we jump back, Bill mentioned that the tool was first started being developed about 5 years ago, when we came to realize that with our clients with large portfolios and even small portfolios, that it was a difficult question answering to them when they posed it to us, what's in my portfolio? And it wasn't an easy question to answer. And so we tried to develop a methodology to visually chart out what's in people's IP portfolios in a way that's easy to grasp from both a legal and also a technology standpoint. That would make it clear what's in a portfolio and how we can distinguish between different pieces or different assets inside the portfolio. So we came up with this web-enabled software that we now call ClaimBot. We've seen a large number of automated patent analytic tools out there on the market, and we use quite a few of them actually in our day-to-day practice when we're.
Hey, Ed?
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. The screen is flashing. I don't know if it's your desktop that's flashing that's being projected to us.
Which screen are you seeing right now? Let me see.
Slides.
Okay, then it's behaving correctly. It's just pardon me. Let's see.
Whatever you did, it did stop.
All right, let's see here. Okay. All right, so we're back off of the non-flashing screen.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Sorry about that. So we've seen a lot of automated patent tools on the market, and a couple of them are really interesting. And so if you've paid attention to the Ocean Tomo auctions, they have what they call the Q score, the patent score that they use when they're judging portfolios that are up for sale. And it's interesting. We've seen those that basically a Stanford research group apparently went and did some correlation between facial patent metrics, and they associated whatever metrics. They basically started with the assumption that if a patent is paid, the annuities are paid throughout the lifetime, it's a valuable patent, and that was their beginning assumption. And they went and they did a bunch of correlation between these facial patent statistics, such as the number of forward citations that a patent has, amount of cited art, length of specification, the number of claims, and they tried to correlate these facial characteristics towards these patents that are being paid throughout their lifetimes to establish kind of a template that they then fit into what would be a valuable patent. And so that's one automated tool out there that's judging the value of patents. There's other tools that are just doing via keyword searches. They're doing just looking at how close certain words are used and how often they're used inside specifications, or how many family members a patent has. And I've seen all these tools, and we've used all these tools in our landscaping exercises that focus on all of this ancillary information. And what we realized was when we started this software, when we started developing this software, that really all that we all that we care about is what really matters when you're looking at a patent, which is the claim language. Because as you guys all know, you can have the most beautifully crafted patent in the world, most elegantly simple and straightforward specification. The teaching is fantastic, but if it has one silly claim limitation, the patent, if it doesn't have reissue or continuation opportunities, the patent's relatively worthless. And so we wanted to make sure that we focused on what really mattered in the patent, which is the claim language. And so what I'll show you right now, basically, and also, so what started with a portfolio management exercise then morphed into, well, how can we use this portfolio management tool that we developed? And I'll show you just in a second the portfolio management tool. But once we had this tool that we developed in order to demonstrate what's in people's portfolios, we started seeing all these different uses that popped out automatically as soon as we started organizing these claim languages in the way that we were doing. And this slide that you're seeing right now, we like to show as the traditional versus the new way of walking through any IP-related question. And the traditional way, like if you were looking at a freedom to operate or you're looking at a landscape, the traditional way to go through an FTO process would be to do your search, come up with your big stack of patents, and then go through those patents one by one by one, and compare it to the proposed design that your customer has, and then go down and check off the claims that don't matter, and circle the claims that do matter. And at the end of the process, you're going to have a couple patents that come out, and if you have to change something in the design because of some potentially problematic claims, you had to go then, when the design was changed, you had to go re-vet all of those patents that you just went through and go back through them again, and it's a laborious task. And what we've found is that with our processes that we use with ClaimBot is that once we map a portfolio, once we map a group of patents, we never have to go back and look at those claim limitations again, because we pulled out these identifiers from the claims that then allow us to more quickly go in and analyze the landscape and to answer these IP-related questions. So really quick, I'm going to walk you through a simplified mechanical demonstration of kind of the methodology and the ideas behind how we're pulling these concepts out of our claims and then charting these. And you'll see the uses of the system of the charting and of the organization, and then we'll walk through a quick simple FTO and before I'll show you some actual output from the web-enabled software. So please, I hope to not insult your intelligence right away with the simplified demo. We'll go into some harder stuff later on. So what you see real quick here is a sample chair portfolio, and so what I'd like to imagine is that let's imagine that you're a company that's in the business of making chairs, and this is your competitor's chair portfolio. This is their patent portfolio, and you just want to make sure that, one, you want to see what your competitors have inside of their portfolio, and you also want to make sure that any potential product that you're making is not infringing your competitors' patents. So that's one scenario. Another scenario would be these are our own patent portfolio, and we're trying to see what's in our own portfolio. But so if we look through, there's 4 simple chair claims on the screen, and what our software lets us do, it provides an efficient portal for attorneys to go in and pull out shared concepts in a portfolio. Because one thing that we notice is that when you're working with a similar technology area, when you're going through the claims, you'll see a lot of shared limitations in these claims. And so instead of having to look at, when you're looking at these 4 chair claims, instead of having to look at each of these limitations separately and read through them all, we can pull out these shared concepts or even develop ideas, scope concepts is what we like to call them, that encompass these ideas. And so if we look through these 4 chair claims, we realize the first thing that each of these 4 chair claims require the concept of a seat. And so we can pull out this scope concept, this idea that each of these chair claims require a seat of some sort. And we can see that chair 1 and chair 2, the language is actually a seat, which is very close to the concept that we pulled out. But chair 3 and chair 4 both require a leather-covered seat. And so what we've done is we've abstracted that claim element, that more specific claim element, into a broader idea that then encompasses more claims. And so we could have easily had 2 separate concepts here, one of a seat that covers all 4 of these, and a second, a leather-covered seat. But for the time being, we realized that each 4 of these chair claims require the concept of a seat. There's other shared concepts, such as 3 of the 4 chair claims require a backrest. 2 of the 4 chair claims require a pedestal support. And again, the pedestal support language, this idea of a pedestal support is broader than the actual narrow claim language. The claim language in chair 1 is a steel pedestal support. The chair 3 claim language is a central pedestal extending from the bottom of the seat to radially extending legs with rollerball feet. But the important thing is that we've developed an idea that is encompassed in more than one of these claims, and then associated the software, our web-enabled software, then allows us to efficiently go in and create these ideas and then figure out which claims are then restricted to these ideas, and pull out these shared concepts and then organize the portfolio using these concepts. We can pull out a concept of a steel support member for supporting the seats, also a leather covering of a seat or a back, and that then encompasses multiple elements from the Chair 3 claim, because separately it had a leather-covered seat and then separately a leather-covered backrest. And what we've done is abstracted that concept to OR them so it includes both of those elements. A slip-resistant seat cover with rubber nubs and rollerball feet. These are all concepts that we can pull out of those 4 chair claims. And as soon as we pull out these all these concepts, these 7 concepts, we can then plot these concepts in relation to the patent portfolio. And so what you see right now is the 4 columns on the page are these 4 separate chair claims that we had, and the scope concepts that we pulled out are on the left of the page, going across. And the dark boxes represent where the claim requires this concept. The light boxes represent where the claim does not require this concept. But so what we've done is, instead of looking at these 4 chair claims individually and with these shared ideas, we pulled out ideas, and now instead of any analysis or any organization that we do with the portfolio, we can now analyze it on the idea level instead of on the claim element level. And we usually realize that there's going to be a large simplification in the portfolio, because what we've got here is, where on the left here you'll see that the original 4 really simple chair claims. I mean, as you guys know, you'll never see, very rarely do you see claims as simple as these they had up right here. But combined, these 4 chair claims they have like 17 separate elements. And what we're able to do is adequately show the coverage of these 4 chair claims, these 17 elements, with these 7 concepts. And so that right there alone is a simplification by more than half of the amount of information that you have to then organize and keep track of. So once we have these scope concepts, we're able to then answer our IP-related questions by analyzing those ideas instead of analyzing the separate elements in each of the claims, and which, just like the scope concepts, simplified the amounts of material that you had to be responsible for to understand what's in the portfolio. When you're answering a question, it also simplifies the number of questions that you have to answer in order to clear a product per se, or to see if something potentially infringes. The number of questions that you have to ask in order to get to the pertinent IP or to get to that answer is going to be less. So if we assume that chair portfolio was our competitor's portfolio, and we want to say we want to make this chair right here that's shown on the right of the screen. If we want to make this chair and then we want to make sure that our chair that we're making doesn't infringe our competitor's portfolio, what we do is we plot our potential target technology, our chair that we want to make, and we put it right next to all these scope concepts, and we simply just go down and walk down the list, and we can answer the question of whether or not our target technology requires this idea that we've abstracted. And so if we walk down, the first question we ask is, does our target technology require a seat? And our answer is yes. Does it require a backrest? Yes. Central pedestal support member? No, it does not. And it does not require a steel support member. It has leather covering, no slip-resistant seat with rubber nubs, and no rollerball feet. Once we answer these questions, our software, our automated tools, automatically go through and pull out the disassociations in the portfolio. And so because we answered no to one of these ideas, any of the claims that include one of these ideas are no longer pertinent to the question that we're asking. We know that they require an idea, a concept, that's not required by the target technology. So we know that those claims are not going to be problematic to whatever the target technology is that we're looking at. And so this works for freedom to operate. It also works to narrow out patents for offensive purposes as well. If you're looking to to see who's potentially infringing your IP. But if we walk through, we see that for each of these questions that we answered no, each of these, if any of the chair claims requires those ideas, they're ruled out. So what we see is that our target technology here, the chair that we want to build, we can build this because each of those chair claims require at least one element that our target chair does not have. And even more so, what I find is really interesting about this is and I'll show you a real-world example of this as well, is that once we plot like a competitor's portfolio, and if we see certain elements that encompass a large number of their claims, you can potentially even get to the point where you can go tell your engineers that, or your client's engineers that, hey, as long as you avoid these two elements or these two ideas, you can make whatever you'd like to, and you won't be infringing your competitor's portfolio, any of your competitor's patents or any of the patents in this portfolio. And in this situation, just by avoiding having rollerball feet and by avoiding having a steel support member for supporting the seat, you could, as long as you avoided those two elements, you've avoided all four chair claims. And actually we see that quite often where you're going to have shared elements, shared limitations that encompass a large percentage of the portfolio, such that you can then tell engineers that, hey, as long as you do not have this element, if you can find some way to brainstorm around requiring this element, you've effectively eliminated 70% of the patents in the portfolio, in the field, because you don't require this one thing that all of these claims have in them. And it's really an interesting thing, because you can essentially give your clients a recipe on how to not infringe. So no longer are we just answering the question, hey, can I make this chair? But you're also able to provide guidance to the client that, hey, you can make anything you'd like to as long as you don't require these two elements. And even further, that if let's say this chair claim or this potential chair that we wanted to build, if it so happened that one of these claims did read on it, if we wanted to make a change to the claim or a change to the chair to avoid that claim, all we'd have to do is then go reanalyze the new chair with respect to those 7 concepts instead of those 17 separate elements in the claims. And so we had a saying a while back, this is map once, used forever. And it's really a situation that instead of analyzing each element in each claim, we can analyze the ideas that are encompassed in these claims. And so we're actually doing our analysis and any of our IP-related questions, we're analyzing them on the idea level, not the claim element level, which simplifies the questions and also speeds the process and creates a lot of efficiencies in our processes.
And also, Adam, I mentioned that for non-lawyers, the people you deal with, the product managers and engineers and so forth, it's a more efficient way of communicating ideas via scope concepts as opposed to the claim language.
No, absolutely. And even when you look at it from a standpoint of just understanding a large number of patents, I mean, I know that if I'm looking at a group of 100 patents, and if I'm going through them, by the time I get to the 7th patent, I don't remember what was in the first patent exactly, and it's just compounded worse by people who don't understand claim language or don't understand patents. So there's nothing an engineer hates worse than having to sit down and read through a large group of patent applications, because when they don't understand what's in the claims versus what's in the teachings and what they can do versus what they can't do. And this really simplifies the question by just pulling out these broader ideas, and then you're able to answer these questions one by one instead of getting bogged down into all of the claim language that's in a claim. And so even though we just walked through an FTO example here, the product has uses to answer any large number of IP-related questions. And so we've used it for freedom to operate, we've used it for valuation, diligence, assertion purposes, annuity decisions, or just portfolio management in order to kind of show what is in your what is in your patent portfolio or what's in the landscape. And so so the tool has many uses outside of just freedom to operate, but the chair example kind of shows how we go through and use the tool. Is there any questions before I move on to the actual kind of real world example of the output from our software?
No.
All right. So what you see on the screen here now, and I'll apologize if it's a little hard to read, is a sample of the actual output from our system, and it's an Excel spreadsheet, and this is the output of our web-enabled software. And so the software, first thing is that a lot of people initially, I mean, we call it ClaimBot, and that title is kind of misleading. It provides an efficient portal for us to go in and work in, but it doesn't do any of these ideas. It doesn't pull any of these ideas out automatically. It just provides an efficient portal for a patent professional or an attorney to go in and analyze large groups of information. And so that's the first thing I always want to make sure that people know. It's that the tool itself is not automatic. It's not just going to go in and all of a sudden spit out a chart, because kind of the beauty of the system is in the complexity of the ideas that are being pulled out, or not really the complexity of the ideas, but the abstracted concepts that we create from looking at claim language, and then associating those abstract concepts across a portfolio. And that's where the real beauty and the value of the system is when you create an idea that really is across a large number of claims, and therefore just by answering one question you can potentially filter out 65% of a search list that you've created. And so what you see on the screen here is the first thing we'll do is we'll start simple, and then we'll go broad. So the screen is changing right now because the output of the system is interactive, and so we can choose to show different amounts of information depending on our purposes. So for example, the different types of information that we can pull out are, first I guess we'll start with scope concepts. Scope concepts are the ideas that we pulled out from like the chair elements that we pulled out from that sample portfolio. The portfolio you're looking at right now is a group of patents. It's in the antenna arts, and so we'll zoom in here, and you'll see that the patents go across the top here. The light blue and white columns are separate patents. So you have a first patent here, dual band F slot patch antenna, a second patent, third patent listed going across. And actually, these are the first four are family members, are members of the same family. But what you'll see is that going across here, we've got about 20 patents going across the top of the screen, and the ideas that we pulled out of the claims are listed here on the left, the scope concepts. And initially, the first thing you notice is that the first concept is providing a multi-band antenna. And so the concept of an antenna that provides communication in multiple frequency bands is encompassed in 63% of the claims in this portfolio. And that's interesting to me to know because if this is the target if this is the output of your search, if you're doing an FTO or if you're doing a landscape, you can then provide that information that 63% of the patents in this portfolio require this idea, this notion of a multiband antenna. There's a couple other concepts here that are large, that scale across a portfolio. If we zoom out, you'll see that these dark blue boxes represent the mappings, and so the more boxes you see going across the screen are shared concepts by all of these patents. This chart specifically is also organized in a fashion, you'll notice the concepts start at the top left and then move to the lower right. They're organized in such a way that, and also the patents on the left are the older patents. They have the older filing dates, and the newer filing dates are moving towards the right. So what that effectively does is it provides a first occurrence type of view of the landscapes. So the older ideas are to the left and to the top, and then as an idea pops up, a new idea pops up in a portfolio, it's organized lower than the older ideas. So you see this sort of timeline, this trending timeline as you go across a portfolio, kind of an idea timeline of where and when the ideas popped up in the landscape. And so what you'll notice here is that there's a couple concepts that go across these claims that that are in quite a few number of the claims. So that multiband antenna is in 63% of the independent claims in this portfolio. Providing a patch antenna, so the notion of a patch antenna is in 46% of them. A slot antenna is in 79% of them. What you're able to do is then, if you're walking through and doing some type of freedom to operate investigation with your clients, how we do this is it's just like in the chair portfolio. We go and we have a target technology in mind, and we ask the question: does our target technology require these ideas? And so we go and assign it a value. And right now everything is the 3 and it's red. You'll see the red going down the left part of the screen and the red going across the top. 3 means high relevance. So everything starts with the assumption that it's highly relevant. If we're walking through this with the product experts or the engineers, and we say, does your target technology, is it a multiband antenna? Does it require a multiband antenna? And if they say no, it does not require a multiband antenna, then we change the relevance score to be a lower relevance. And so automatically, just by changing that relevance score of this one concept, what happens is across the top of the screen, you notice that half of those claims, half of those independent claims turn green, which means that they are no longer relevant. They have a low relevance to the potential, the target technology that you're looking at. And so whether or not this is a diligence project, a freedom to operate, any type of project, you know that whatever your target technology was, you know that 63% of these claims are no longer relevant to whatever your interests were. And if we walk down, we can answer all of these questions similarly. So we'll change that back to a highly relevant. But you'll notice that there's a different mix of concepts. So there's the providing a multiband antenna was a relatively high, it had a broad. It's a broad concept. And so there's a relatively more narrow concept right below it, selectively operating a plurality of wireless RF transceivers having respective different operating frequencies to use a common antenna, having a plurality of feed points at a same time. And so one thing you notice that this scope concept requires a couple of things here. It requires a plurality of wireless RF transceivers. It requires a plurality of feed points on a single antenna. And the single antenna has to be operable at one time at the plurality of operating frequencies. And so if the engineers say, look, no, we only have one RF transceiver, we can change the value of that concept to a low value, and then all of a sudden all of the claims that require that concept are automatically associated as having a low value. If the engineers indicate that they don't have to require a patch antenna, you'll notice that more of these claims just popped out just because we answered that we don't have to have a patch antenna. And so on and so forth. Basically, we just walk through these scope concepts with the engineers, and we answer each of these questions as being a high relevance, a medium relevance, or a low relevance. High relevance meaning that we require it or that it's important. Low relevance meaning that we don't require it or it's low importance. And medium may be, if we assign it a 2, medium may just be the fact that we're not sure. We're not sure of what the scope concept means, and then it's assigned a yellow value, which means basically it's not. Well, I have to look at it more closely. But we walk through and we answer these questions, and then at the end of the process, if we walk through all of these, I'm just going in and plugging values in. If we walk through all of these and we see that at the end of the process, most of these claims across the top, by answering just a couple of these questions as low relevance and keeping some of them as, hey, we need these, you notice that 4 of these claims, 4 of the independent claims in the portfolio came back as being as high relevance, 2 of them came back as being medium relevance, and the rest, 80% of them or so, came back as being low relevance. What the spreadsheet allows us to do is we can just hit a button and all of a sudden we can hide all of the low relevant claims. We can shrink down the portfolio really quickly to just be showing the subject matter that we want to look at. And if we're unsure of what something might be, we can then just click on a button real quick and it brings us to the actual claim language. And so we can, if we're still unsure, if we had a claim that was yellow that had a medium relevance that we didn't rule out, but we didn't say it's really problematic, we can look over and go look at the actual claim language and then make a determination using the actual claim language and not the scope concepts. of whether or not this element is, or this claim is going to be applied to our target technology. So that's just a really quick sample as to how we use the interactive output. But there's what you saw initially and what you see now is that there's different other types of information that we use and we pull out depending upon the type of project that we're doing. This chart right here has different hierarchies of information. We started looking at the scope concepts originally. There's other types of information that we pull out that the system's set up to do, such as technology categories, which we think of technology categories as just bucketing technology. You've probably done this for a client where you do a breakdown of what areas their patents are in. And so a 100,000-foot view of, hey, what areas is patent in? We provided a technology category so we can organize the IP. And just like those scope concepts, if we don't want to see certain categories, like if these are all different, if these technology categories, my apologies, if we're just interested in, if we're not interested in multiple, MIMO antennas, we're not interested in arrays or monopole, we're only interested in microstrip antennas, we can go and do all these associations, and then, well, I guess there's no just single isolated antennas, but we can go and we can cancel out anything and then reduce the portfolio to just look at what we want to look at, just the type of information that we want to look at. And so these maps are expandable and classable to just pinpoint the type of information that you're looking for, which I find is pretty interesting. Other types of information that we pull out are publication categories, whether or not it's an EP patent, a U.S. patent, an application, a pending application. Still, we can show which type of patents they are. Claim categories, we pull out whether or not it's a system or apparatus claim, a method of making, a method of using, computer or readable medium, or a means for a claim. Any type of information that you want to pull out and assign a category to, we can do that in the system. And lastly is keywords. We do keyword analysis across portfolios, and keywords actually are one of the only automated parts of the system where you can actually just put in a list of important words, and then it'll go out and pull out all of those keywords across claims, but not just claims. It'll also pull out keywords and specifications, and so you can actually mine specifications and do maps to show where the keywords are. And just like the scope concepts provided a kind of a timeline of what are the new concepts across the portfolio, the keywords do kind of a terminology timeline showing when these new words popped up in the portfolio across the landscape. And so it can be pretty interesting to see that certain groups of independent claims require a certain keyword, and then others don't require that same word. And so you can look at those for differences in claim language and glean information that way. Right now, the map that we're viewing is we're only looking at independent claims. We also can map dependent claims. We can map specifications. The tool does all of this depending upon the project that you're looking at or the purposes of the exercise. The other thing that I find really interesting when we're looking at scope concepts, especially when you're looking at scope concepts among family members, is you can see where these shared limitations are, but you can also point really quickly and see why is each patent, what's new about each patent over its predecessors. And so what you'll see here is this first group of four claims. They're in the same family. So the first claim is an application as it was filed in the patent office, or the first file. The second file is the patent as it issued from the patent office. And so here, when we're looking at the claim difference, we notice that the claims in the U.S. patent that issued was very similar to the U.S. patent as it went into the patent office, which is a good thing. An EP application was then filed, and you notice the EP application has less independent claims than the U.S. application did. Unity of invention makes sense. So the EP patent went in with the same broad concepts as two of the three independent claims that went into the United States application. But the third file is the EP patent as it went into the patent office, as it went into the EP office. The fourth file is a current view of the claims as it sits in the patent office. And so what you're seeing between this third and this fourth file, even though they're the same file, they're the same file at different points in time. So the title of this guy is the EP patent number, and the title of this one is EP patent number as of a certain date when we put it into the system. But what you're seeing is that amendments had to be made during EP prosecution, and limitations had to be added to the independent claims. And when we chart this family, this group of patents, we notice that so the EP patent had to have additional concepts added to it that the United States independent claims did not have initially, or as they were issued. And so it automatically calls into question the validity of the issued U.S. claims, which is interesting. It's something that we should be able to provide to if this is our own client's portfolio, tracking claim concepts and being able to visually see the differences in the scope of the claims as they're going through prosecution worldwide is something that we provide to our clients, is to let them know when references are found abroad that maybe weren't found, or if were found in one jurisdiction that maybe weren't found in another, and that they may need to identify continuation opportunities or maybe potentially reexamination or reissue in order to cure those patents if they ever hope to enforce them. And so it's another way to monitor your clients' portfolios in order to provide them with the best representation of their IP worldwide, which is really an interesting thing. So similarly, the second group of patents is also 3 family members, and what you see when you organize these patents this way, when you organize the scope concepts this way, is that the new concepts, and what I mean by new concepts, the concepts that are in the second family of patents that weren't in the first family of patents start down here midway through. You'll see that the notion of a patch antenna, the notion of a slot antenna in this portfolio of patents, or in this group of patents that we mapped, was not new to this second family of patents. The stuff that was new, the reason that this was patentable, starts at this scope concept here. And so this group of scope concepts, if you want to point right away to what's the new part of these patents, you can then quickly just dive down to what are the new concepts that weren't in the previous pieces of art. And so you can dive right down and know that, well, the neat part of this claim is going to be the whole concept that you're providing a loop strip structure coupled to and disposed around first and second F slot structures. And so you can jump right away to what's the new part, what's the neat part of these patents. And you can also see in a group of independent claims which is the broadest independent claim and which are narrower ones that require more limitations. So it's pretty interesting. It's pretty neat to see to be able to garner this information quickly and easily just by looking at a visual representation of what the claim language is.
And maybe you could touch upon some of the things the software does automatically in terms of getting information into the system, like it parses out independent claims, for example. It downloads it organizes the portfolio by the date.
Yep. So the thing that the system does, and I can show you a demonstration of this if you'd like, is it basically the software, when you log in, you create a portfolio of patents, and the portfolio of patents, it's interesting because our methodologies of searching have changed since we've developed this tool, because it's easier to differentiate and distinguish between patents, and we're not having to look at the details of each of the patents. We're able to take out these abstract ideas, and because of that, our search methodologies have changed. We spend less time actually picking out what are the relevant patents, and more time pulling out these limitations from patents. So our searches have become a little bit more broad than they used to be, and then it's also we're getting into projects earlier in the process because we're no longer hamstringed by the traditional. If you're doing a freedom to operate project, the traditional way is that a client, comes up with an idea, their R&D team goes and figures out how they're going to make it work. The business people say, yes, I want to do it. And then finally, like after you get a final design, they go to legal in order to clear it and make sure that you can practice it. And that's the old way of doing it, because you were clearing a final design, because the process of freedom to operate is very costly, or it used to be costly. And now we're getting into our clients' R&D teams a lot sooner and a lot more often, because the patents, as soon as we get a group of patents, we're analyzing large areas of patents, and actually instead of doing focus searches on individual elements, we're actually doing more like landscape searches. Where, for example, if we have a medical device technology, instead of looking at a specific feature of like if it's a defibrillator, and if the algorithm, in order to distinguish between an abnormal and normal cardiac rhythm, is they're using heart sounds, instead of looking at a specific aspect of that heart sound algorithm, we're getting all heart sound patents in the medical device arts, and we're mapping the entire library of heart sound patents. And then any type of development that the client's doing in the heart sound area, they vet across the scope concepts that we've created for that heart sound library, that heart sound portfolio, and in order to see if there's any problematic issues with the patent landscape. And so we're getting in there, and we're doing it we're doing more investigations, and we're doing them faster and cheaper, because as soon as we've mapped the patent once, we never have to map it again. We've always got those ideas and those concepts that we've abstracted, and so it's very quick to go and determine whether or not a patent is relevant or not. Bill's point about the software, what is automatic and what's not automatic, and where I got sidetracked is the search. So the first thing that you do is you come up with a group of patents that you want to put into the software, and the software provides just a box where you can paste in the numbers of the patents, of the U.S. patents. It automatically scrapes in U.S. patents and U.S. applications. Any worldwide, any PCT, EP, any of those patents, we're working on having those automatically scraped in, but right now it's just a manual. You just have to paste the language, the text of the patent into a box, and it automatically parses everything. But what it does is it distinguishes between independent claims and dependent claims. It associates the correct claim dependencies, so the trees of dependencies. It automatically goes and associates. It knows that Claim 3 is dependent on Claim 2, which is dependent on Claim 1, and does those associations. And so you can decide whether or not you want to just analyze the independent claims of a portfolio, or the dependent claims, or the specifications. It'll parse out the specifications in the paragraphs, and it puts all of this information in, and it allows us to go do Boolean searching throughout whatever type of information that we want to do. And allows us to create these technology categories across large portfolios of patents, and then do just analysis in single categories. But the thing that's automatic is the keyword association. So if you have a list of important words across a portfolio, those words, the system will automatically go pick out all those words and map where those words are associated in the portfolio. So if you're doing IDS work and you just want to see in what references or where in the references certain things are, just as easy as we looked at the actual claim language on this spreadsheet, we can do the same type of thing with paragraph numbers and specifications, where if you want to look and see what paragraphs these words came up in, you just click a button and all of a sudden it'll bring you right there. The other thing that the system does is the process of making these scope concepts. An attorney will sit down and look at the claim language, and then develop an idea by looking at the claim language. And so I'll be looking at a single patent. I'll be looking at one claim, and there'll be an element there, and I'll come up with an idea that I kind of a little bit of an abstract idea that's associated with those claims. And if you can just conceptually imagine the whole concept of a seat in a chair portfolio, and then so instead of just associating that one claim that I'm looking at with a seat, the software then provides a portal, a search portal, to go look through all of the independent, dependent, or specification, whatever you'd like to map. It provides a portal to go search for that concept of a seat. And it doesn't do the thesaurus automatic type of determinations. It doesn't pull all the equivalent word associations of what a seat is. but it allows the user to go and make their own determinations and then search for that concept of a seat. So maybe I'll put a seat support and do a search for these terms, and then it's Boolean, so you can do ands and ors and withs and nots and whatnot. And then it provides it shows you the search results of what claims in that portfolio have those words that you've searched for, and allows you to quickly go through and make sure that the concept that you're creating, to see whether or not those claims that came out of that search, you have to visually go through and determine that those elements, those claims that have come up, those elements are restricted to that idea you've created. The system then also saves that Boolean search string. So if you ever added more patents to your portfolio, the example that if I made a heart sound library and then the client, a year later wants to go and make another project, I've got to update that portfolio, and let's say that I have to put 30 new patents into that library. The system automatically remembers all of the word associations that I've searched for in order to make those concepts, and then associates those words with the concepts that were created and makes suggestions of scope concepts based upon your past searching and analysis. And so it'll automatically suggest concepts to you based on your past associations. But beyond, those are the two automated parts of the system, that and then the output, the interactive output that you can sit down and use with the clients or anybody in order to answer those questions. Does that kind of provide a picture, a snapshot of what the software does and doesn't do?
Yeah, it looks great.
So if anybody ever wanted an actual real demonstration of the usages of the software, of actually going in and making some concepts and scraping in some patents, the software automatically scrapes in U.S. patents really quickly. 100 patents will get into the system in a matter of minutes, and then it automatically associates them, throws them to a bucket that you can then work in, and it's pretty snazzy. So it's changed our practice. In fact, my biggest clients, my current biggest clients, we do a ton of prosecution for them, but we do a lot of strategic work for them. Basically, they said that the legal department said they can't justify sending legal analysis work anywhere else, just because of the efficiencies that this creates in the processes, and their engineers love it because they don't have to read patent claims. They just have to analyze the ideas that we pulled out. And what we like to tell the clients is that we're providing them the tools to make their own determinations. So they're not just trusting us at the output of an FTO saying, yeah, trust us, you don't infringe. It's actually we're pulling out these ideas and these abstract concepts, and then we're going to the product experts and we're saying, is this, and we're talking with them and letting them tell us whether or not that idea is actually embodied in the technology. And so we leave the technological questions to the engineers, and we just answer the legal ones. So it's the whole process is transparent. It provides for a really quick output. We don't have these huge thick reports that we provide to clients for FTOs that no one ends up reading. It just gets filed away somewhere. The output that we provide is a mix of the mappings and then some analysis on the stuff that's still potentially problematic at the outset. So that's greatly simplified the output that we provide for clients. And after Seagate, we haven't actually had one of these go to trial yet or anything, but we're fairly certain after Seagate that this is more than adequate to show that the clients address the issues in the landscape. And usually there's some determinations made or some changes made in the process because we get in so early that they can show that they've designed around something because of our processes. So it's pretty bulletproof from that standpoint of protecting the clients. And it's cheaper, faster, it's more fun to use, and I have a good time with it. So.
Well, thanks, Ed. Before we go, any additional questions or comments? Well, Ed, I guess we can conclude the recording of the demonstration at this point. Why don't we turn off the recording, and I just want to address a couple of points before we officially sign off.